Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And I woke up from my nap about 40 minutes ago, and I have that groggy feeling that I just can't seem to get rid of. And I was sitting downstairs in the living room. The sun shines in there, so it was pretty hot in there, even though it's cool outside. So I opened the window and I was just sitting on the couch, peering out the window. And I was like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to move ever. And that's when I knew that was the next right thing to do, is I needed to come upstairs and record my podcast. So here we are. And I know it's going to perk me up because it always does. So welcome. And today our topic is about focusing outward instead of inward. That's exactly what I did. I was like, I was stuck down there looking out the window, focusing inward. I was looking outside, but I was focused inward and thinking about how I didn't wanna. So I did not plan that. That just happened. That was exactly what was happening there. And I came up here so that I could share how I'm feeling with others, because I know that my experience can help another person. Me feeling that way is going to help somebody. And that is so powerful to me, that I can feel that way and think, let's not let this feeling go to waste. I can look at a negative feeling today and think, let's not waste this feeling. Let's share about it so that it can help somebody else, so that they know they're not alone. I mean, that's amazing. Let's just stop for a minute and recognize how brilliant this podcast is. Okay, we're done with that now. So I want to look at that, the opportunity of focusing outward today. But I want to talk about how there are healthy ways to do it and unhealthy ways to do it. Like, I can't just ignore the fact that I don't feel like, that I don't wanna. But in this case, and I'll talk about this, is like, why don't I wanna? Is it because I'm in emotional pain, physical pain? Am I fatigued? Like, really, if I'm going to focus inward, let's focus inward on the solution. And the first thing I can do is identify what is going on and give it a name. And for me, what was going on, I felt like, was I was having a hard time waking up because I'm mentally fatigued. I did a lot of stuff today, tried to get some digital errands done, and I think that wore me out more than normal. I've been doing a lot of crafts lately, and that seems to be the speed at which my life should run. But look at what's going on, give it a name, and then figure out what is the solution for that. Like, I am in my recovery building a toolbox that associates the solution with the problem. And that is truly just through experience. So what I want to do is, and this is what the meditation mentioned this morning in my meeting, about beginning with you can begin with a feeling of whatever it is, mental fatigue, emotional pain, anxiety, whatever it is that your physical pain, whatever it is that you're beginning with, and end with stillness. Because that is always my goal. My goal is always to get that serenity, because I know what it feels like now. And that is my high now. So I'm always chasing that. And so I'm starting to pinpoint what it is that I can do about the different things that I'm feeling after I name it. Um, and one of those things that I can do is reach out to another person, whether it's somebody else who's suffering with my same illness, my same disease, chronic pain, just anybody, reaching out to family and friends. Um, that is a great way for me in certain circumstances to be focused on to not continue to sink into whatever it is that I'm feeling. If it's anxiety, I definitely need to change gears to focus outward instead of inward. If I am feeling fatigue, um, there are several solutions because it depends on a scale of 1 to 10 what it is that I'm feeling. So that's the whole physical aspect. If my head is hurting, when I was looking out the window, I was like thinking, there's that feeling, that headache. It's just a constant headache in my head. And for a moment, I was thinking, is this really a headache? This is funny to say out loud, but I was thinking, is this really a headache? I have felt it constantly since my stroke in June of 2021. What if it's not a headache and I just think it's a headache? I don't even know how to articulate that. I was like, maybe it's not really one, and I just forgot what it's like to not have a headache. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, I'm always thinking, thinking. Oh boy. um, so anyway, I want to talk about focusing outward. And I heard something really pretty this morning also. It said, I think this was in the no, not the daily reflection, the thought for the day. It said to keep my eyes trained on the horizon above myself. I thought that that was beautiful. It's such a beautiful way to think about it. So I had to write that down. We might even try to squeeze that into the title because it's so pretty. Anyway, because that's how I get my kicks. One thing that came to mind this morning when we were talking about focusing outward instead of inward was I was thinking about how when I first got sober, I used to, okay, so before I got sober, when I was getting ready for work, I always woke up feeling absolutely hungover, terrible, like I couldn't stand up straight. And so it's ironic that I have to wake up feeling terrible again, but it's okay. At least I can smile. Before I couldn't smile. And I would sit down because I couldn't stand up. I would sit down in front of the closet mirror to like curl my hair and put on my makeup and stuff like that. And when I got sober, I decided, well, this is a very comfortable place to get ready. So I just kept doing it. Um, and in the morning when I first got sober, right. Yeah. So, sorry, my head. So we're all on this roller coaster ride. So I would get a text from another woman in my sobriety fellowship, just randomly, like 2 or 3 times a week. I would get a text while I was sitting there in front of the mirror getting ready. And while I was sitting there, my thinking, I was thinking about how I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to be sober. I didn't wanna. That's what I was thinking. And then I would get this text from her, and really, she would just say, like, I hope you have a great day. How are you doing? Like, she seemed genuinely caring about me. She made an effort to make me shift gears in the morning. And that was so helpful to me to start building that habit of switching gears in the morning. And today, what that looks like to me is me making the decision to um, to be sober one day at a time, to live with joy despite the head pain and that kind of stuff. And over time, those texts from her dwindled. And I bet I know why they did. I bet it's because I never took the initiative to text her. That has always been my MO, and it still is. And I'm trying to change that. But she just did so much for me. And I realized I've been thinking about her a lot lately. She had been a caregiver of her husband for quite a few years. He had a chronic illness, and he ended up passing away recently. And she's very young to have lost a husband. I mean, it's there are so many people around me who have lost their husband. It makes me a bit fearful about I hope this isn't training. I'm just saying that. That's terrible to say, but I start getting skeptical about when I'm exposed to too much of one thing, that this is the plan for me. That's terrible. I hope that doesn't come across wrong, but it scares me, it's because my thinker, it just thinks, thinks, thinks. That's all it does. And so I think terrible things a lot of times. So let's just be honest about what's going on in my brain a lot. Anyway, I decided recently I really need to give back to her what was so freely given to me. Maybe I can help her change gears. And so I've been slowly trying to contact her a little more, and she seems very appreciative of it. It's foreign to me to do that. So it's not the most comfortable thing. And maybe some of you feel that way. Maybe it's not the most comfortable thing to randomly reach out to people and tell them you're thinking about them. Because I don't really know what to say. Um, should I talk about the husband? Should I not talk about the husband? There are some people I haven't really we'd lost touch. So that's why I don't really know what to say, because I have another friend in the program who also lost her husband, but I don't really feel as challenged to figure out what to say. And then I have another family friend who lost her husband. You see, it's like all around me. Um, so I think what it does is it helps me now when I'm having some emotional pain, when I'm feeling maybe not spiritually fit, that now's the time for me to control shifting gears. Don't expect somebody else just to text me or call me. That's something I talked to my psychiatrist about, was that how deeply missed my kids are, how much I miss living down the street from my mom, and yet I don't call them. And she's like, why don't you call them? And like trying to dig deep. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why I don't call them. Because it's what I want. It's all I want. It's really a matter of um, kickstarting it. Kind of like when I was sitting on the couch before the podcast episode, where it's like just doing it. even though I don't know how, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. I mean, I walked up here and hit record. I didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth. Of course, I have my topic that I took notes on this morning, and it's just unfolding for me. I didn't have to plan that, how it all relates to each other. It just kind of works. And it's kind of, dare I say, because last time I said this, I totally kept losing my train of thought, but it's been helping that I can keep a train of thought for a longer period of time now. So, I shouldn't have said that because it's going to happen again. So, those are things that I'm trying to do to take control of shifting my own gears in my mindset. So, what I did today was I asked Chatty McChatterton, you all know who he is, ChatGPT. I asked Chatty that this is what I asked him. Why is it so helpful to change focus to being on other people when we're in emotional pain? Is it unhealthy to do that? And is it a distraction, or is it good for us? So, Chatty, this episode is brought to you by Chatty McChatterton. And I'm not going to read what he said, but I'm just going to kind of share with you my thoughts about the feedback that I got from Chatty. So he talked about two different aspects, which is what I asked, healthy and unhealthy aspects. And I don't think these are anything that are profound insights or anything, but it is important to be reminded. And I think that a lot of the episodes that I guide us through are not profound insights. I mean, maybe you think they are, and that's why you keep coming back. And thank you so much. I appreciate that. But a lot of it is me having to remind myself because I'm navigating life day to day. And that's why I show up every day and do a podcast, except for when I feel really, really terrible or there's been something very strange happen in my life, which has happened. And I miss an episode. But here we go. So the healthy aspects that he shared are, of course, to shift perspective. I can get into this place where I just have overwhelming thoughts about something that starts to increase my anxiety. And I can tell that if I keep thinking about it, it's not going to solve anything. That's my first clue. Is me thinking about this going to solve anything? Or is ruminating on it going to create bigger physical symptoms, worse physical symptoms? That's how I know what I need to do. Am I thinking about something because I'm going to be able to solve a problem in my life or in somebody else's life? Most of the time when I'm ruminating, I can't do anything about it. I can't control people, places, and things, and that's what I'm ruminating on. So shifting my perspective, and which can be done just as easily as just sending somebody a text. If something is really bothering me deeply, I will call somebody, but I'm not a great example for picking up the phone. I try, and it's something I'm always going to keep trying. I'm not going to give up on my ability to pick up the phone because it is getting better and better slowly. So shifting my perspective on something that I'm not going to be able to resolve. And the other healthy aspect is building relationships, nurturing relationships, building connections, which is exactly what I've done with this woman in my network who I'd lost touch with. I want to always be able to give as much as I get, and I want to make sure that my network is very strong And there are times when I may just need to shift I may need to shift gears, but I'm I'm able to listen to somebody. I'm not calling somebody so that I can share with them how terrible I feel. I'm shifting gears and calling somebody because I want to be able to listen. And supporting others helps me feel less isolated. And that's so dangerous for me. I should have wrote down these, like, that's number two, is making sure that I don't isolate myself. The next one is about building empathy and gratitude. And I'm a very empathetic person. I think I have almost too much empathy where I will ruminate on somebody else's pain, and it hurts. It can hurt as much it can hurt me, maybe not as much as the other person, but it can hurt me in unhealthy ways when I ruminate on somebody else's pain and I try to put myself in somebody else's shoes. And that's what happened with my other friend in my network who lost her husband. Like, I didn't sleep for a few days because I just put myself in her shoes and it was painful. And I wasn't helping her by doing that. Um, but I didn't know how to resolve the problem. I didn't know how to stop that. So I can talk all day long about how we need to shift gears, but that doesn't mean I'm perfect at it, you know? That's why I'm talking about it, because I'm not perfect at it. I want to learn how to do it better. Um, and when I reach out to somebody to shift gears, I must acknowledge the gratitude that they are there and they are there in my life. So gratitude really needs to be in the environment, in the conversation. You know, when I call somebody, I called my sponsor, or I didn't call her, I texted her yesterday, and we had a conversation. And at the end of the conversation, I was like, I'm so grateful you're my sponsor, and I want you to be my sponsor for the rest of my life. That's what I told her. And that was my way of expressing my gratitude. It's kind of fun being me. Um, and then boosting the mood. I mean, that's an obvious healthy aspect. Helping others and showing acts of kindness, just even listening to somebody else, can release those happy chemicals that I talked about a year ago. We should talk about happy chemicals again and boost our mood. And that just makes us feel better. Um, it raises our functioning level. If you know what I mean, like our mood level raises when we keep interacting with other people. I noticed that with me. Um, so Chatty talked about some of the potentially unhealthy aspects of distracting yourself or avoiding dealing with your own emotions. And that is unhealthy. When my psychiatrist, I'll just tell you all this again for those of you who, I don't know, I can't imagine somebody sits here and listens to every single one of these podcasts. So when I repeat myself, well, I do know there's one person, no, two people who listen to every single one, but it appears to be that there's more than just two people. So for those of you who don't, um, what was I gonna say? I did it again. Uh, Focusing, avoiding our own. It can be unhealthy. Oh man, I lost it. I'm so sorry. It's because I did the squirrel. I did the shiny coin thing. Avoidant. It can be avoiding avoidance or distraction, it can be used as a way to avoid dealing with our own emotions. I'm there. So my psychiatrist shared with me that when I was talking to her about choosing happy, and I had done like some podcast episodes on it and stuff, and I was like, I told her that I've had conversations with my daughter about how we have more control of our emotions than we recognize, is what I was talking about. And I said that I've shared with my daughter that we can, we don't have to sit in our funk. Like we can choose happy. That's what I said. And she was like, okay, let's talk about that because choosing happy, and there's so many like home decor stuff that say choose happy now. And there's an unhealthy aspect to that, believe it or not. And hopefully I can articulate it, but she was she was talking about how we can't just have something that we're processing and say, you know what, forget about it. I'm going to choose happy. Because that means we're ignoring what we're needing to process. And if it's like loss of a boyfriend or oh dear, the dogs are barking. Okay, we're good. Uh, no, I'm just gonna have to let her bark. Sorry, people. So, she's just barking at somebody outside, I think. There's lots of kids that ride by on their little scooters and stuff. And I'm too lazy to get up. Um, so we have to process these things. And what I was talking about with her also was the loss that I was dealing with of one of my friends, a lifetime friend that I met in fifth grade and just adored, just absolutely adored my whole life. And later in life, we were drinking together, hilarious, absolutely hilarious, good looking, had everything. Um, guy is although it seemed that way, and he passed away from our disease. And I just could not, for a year and a half, I could not deal with it. I didn't know. I mean, I was dealing with it. I mean, I had a recent podcast episode about that. I was dealing with it the way that I needed to deal with it, but it took a really long time. And I was talking to her about, I don't want to sit in this emotional pain. I need to get up and do something. I need to choose happy. I was talking to her about that too. She was really suggesting that I need to process that stuff. I can't just, when I'm feeling it and it hurts too bad, get up and walk away. I can't do that. I have to let myself process that emotion. But she suggested that what I do is time box it. Not only time box it, but also box it into a location in my house. So I have, for example, this recliner. Sit in the recliner by the window. Say, I'm going to sit here for 15 minutes and I'm going to mourn. And that morning can look however you want it to look. It can be just sitting there and crying. It can be looking at his pictures. It can be listening to music. It can be whatever you need to do to process and feel the feelings, feel the feels. And then after 15 minutes, it doesn't have to be 15 minutes, but after your time boxed period, stand up from the location where you have assigned to feel and process your emotional pain. Get up and walk away from it and go directly, don't pass go or collect $200 directly to something that you enjoy in a different area of the house. And this has been really amazing advice for me. Dogs are barking again. I'm sure you can't hear it, but it's distracting me. So that was just really great advice for me. So I think I need to do that first before I pick up the phone and call somebody. I need to make sure that I'm not trying to distract myself from my pain. So, I think that this point by Chatty is a really good one. The next one Chatty gave me was codependency. Um, you know, call me an idiot, but I have always had a hard time understanding what this word codependency really means in my life. And I've been like 8 years sober, and maybe I haven't sat down and thought about it enough. Maybe I need to do a podcast about it, and then I'll learn more about how it applies in my life. But Chatty tells us that we don't want to depend on other people to control our environment, like validate our self-worth, control our environment. I don't want to, every time I don't feel happy, call XYZ, call somebody, call my friend, because I'm not processing the emotions again. So we may come dependent on focusing on others again rather than addressing our own issues. So when I met, let's see, who was it that I met? I think it was my current husband. I made a deal with myself that my happiness was not going to depend on him. This was early on, when not when we first started dating, because my happiness did depend on him earlier. And I think that through my experience with my ex-husband and starting to date a new person and feeling just so much like the honeymoon stage, when we started exiting out of the honeymoon stage, and he exited the honeymoon stage before I did. And I think that's why I had to process. And the way I dealt with it is that I recognized it. I gave it a name, because I guess that's what codependency was. Yeah, in my life. So maybe I'm figuring it out. Um, and I've just never given it that name. Sometimes names are a little not as much as people give them worth for. It gets confusing when we have all these names for things. But when he had exited the honeymoon stage before I did, I was thinking about how, oh, he doesn't love me anymore. I can't be happy if he can't come spend the weekend with me, I'm not happy, and all this stuff. And I realized I can't live like that. Or else I'm gonna be happy only for a day and a half out of the week, and then the rest of the week I'm gonna be unhappy. And that's no good, no good. So I made a decision that my happiness was not going to depend on him. He um, nourishes my happiness, expands my happiness. makes me happier. But I was able to, over time, recognize what made me happy when he wasn't around. And this was before I stopped drinking. So today, not drinking, it's so much easier for me to like be happy no matter who's around. I sit here on this podcast and I laugh all the time because I am truly enjoying myself. So, yeah, I think it's important. I remember when I was little, I used to tell my mom all the time, I'm bored. I'm bored. I always felt like I needed attention. And it took me a lot of years to realize I don't need attention. That said, from a woman who's logging onto the internet and and doing a podcast, is that for attention? I don't no, because that was it's not, I question my own goals and purpose of my podcast, but no, the purpose of my podcast was not to gain attention. It was to help another person, just one other person. And I've done it so far, and I'm going to keep doing it. Even if it's just to keep helping that one person. Thank you for listening. Okay. So finally, refocusing on others can be a distraction from our self-care. And I think really avoiding processing our emotions is distracting us from or uh, making us neglect our self-care. But it can also lead to, and this really resonates with me, burnout. I think that's why I end up falling asleep and sleeping for like 3 hours unexpectedly and waking up and feeling terrible for like an hour. I feel better. So this was very successful, but I get burned out, you know. So self-care, just relax, like pause. Maybe that's the answer there. Just pause. So, that's what I have for you today. And I appreciate you listening as always, because you just listened to somebody going from feeling really, really bad to really grateful and pretty good. And I'll take that. Really, really pretty good and grateful. So, what was I going to say? In 5 minutes, I have my voiceover review session with my iBug today for the blind organization. And I'm really, truly enjoying these people. I didn't realize that there was so much more I could be enjoying without using my eyes. So I went to the movie night last Friday, and I'm hoping I can go again tomorrow night. And it's just virtual. It's not really going anywhere. I'm just listening to a movie. But that, and then there's a book club. So I just signed up for listening to that book club and listening to that book. Sorry, my microphone just disconnected. So hopefully you can still hear me. And lots of different things. So last night I re-listened to the lesson for this week because I just feel like it's nice to feel like I'm a part of. So I'm going to go with that because the dogs are barking again. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.